All right, there we go. Live, just 1 minute late tonight. Not too bad here on what we're now calling the Wednesday Linc. Thomas Mott, Josh Davis. Josh, what's up, man?
What is up? I like it. It's my fault this time, by the way, too. So just so that everybody knows, you were last week, but I'll take the blame for it. Some technical difficulties, but I like it. The Wednesday Linc.
The Wednesday Linc. How about that? I think it's a good name. And honestly, it was your idea. So we'll give you credit where that. So, you're 1 minute late, but you came up with the show idea. Totally fine there. Yeah, for those of you guys who have not watched the Wednesday Linc yet or not watched Josh and myself together, this is the new live show we're doing every single Wednesday night, probably around 7 p.m. We're 5 minutes early today because I got to jump on an actual other work call at 8 p.m. So I wanted to get on a little bit extra, a little bit earlier. But the goal is to go over what's happening with Philadelphia, what's happening with the National Football League, and then answer your guys' questions. So jump into the chat, ask questions, whatever you guys want to talk about. We already have things planned, but we'll obviously go ahead and answer any questions that you guys have. It's the off season, but as Josh and I both know from our shows the past couple of days, it's crazy. I mean, it's been going absolutely nuts. I was watching your show today. You're talking about Leonard Fournette, which I think we really need to go ahead and get into. My show today, talking about trading Darius Slay. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on right now in the world of Philadelphia. It's almost too much to handle.
It is. It is absolutely nuts. And like we were talking about last week, we're sitting there going, okay, hey, what's going to happen? Are we going to get an OC? Are we going to get DC? Are we going to get any sort of decisions? And now you fast forward a week, there's been so many decisions made, but obviously this time of year, there's always going to be questions asked and unanswered and, what's going on. But yeah, you talk about all the rumors going on. I don't know if there's a more ridiculous rumor that I've heard, and I know you talked about on your show, but trading big play Slay, what is that about?
Yeah.
I mean, that to me, I know you want to explore every option during the offseason, don't get me wrong, but I mean, this is Darius Slay we're talking about. This is a team captain. I'm definitely not on board with that idea. And I know you spoke about it on your show, but that was one of the most outrageous takes I've heard so far in the offseason. I'll say that.
I think we needed to talk about it because it comes via Derek Gunn, who obviously is the creator of Jacob Media. He's a former TV guy, big time plugged in Philadelphia. He has Lane Johnson on his show. He has Brandon Graham, very respected guy in the world of Philadelphia. I think he has some great stuff over there. But his whole explanation, I went back and watched the show, was essentially Darius Slay's old, right? 32 years old this season. You can make the argument his play went down a little bit in the second half of the year, which is down from what, like an all-pro level? I mean, we're only a little bit down. And then the idea that he's the second biggest cap hit on the team, besides Fletcher Cox, I think, going into the offseason. And so the thought process is there. We need money. Let's get rid of the old, bring in the new, and be fine. And while I get the argument, you might as well get rid of Darius Slay while he's still tradable, but you don't have to do that to every single player who gets over the age of 30 in the National Football League. Some players you can use on your roster until they are done, and then you let them go, like Philadelphia is going to do with Fletcher Cox this season. They're not going to re-sign him unless it's for a team-friendly deal. And so, while, again, I get the idea of trading Slay, it doesn't make sense for a team in win-now mode, because then you're doing two brand-new cornerbacks. And I think Derek Gunn said he would re-sign Bradbury and then get rid of Slay and then draft a corner. But I think Bradbury's gone. The reports of him going to Arizona seem to be very hot right now. I like the idea of having one veteran corner, and the better one. I think Slay was better than Bradbury last year, and then draft somebody at 10. And that way you kind of have the mentorship. You bring them on. That way there's no big expectations for year one, because very few cornerbacks are Sauce Gardner year one. And then hopefully year two, Slay's out the door. Maybe year three, Slay's out the door. And then you move, Witherspoon or Joey Porter Jr. over to the number one cornerback slot. Yeah, that was the big hot thing today. What I thought was crazy, though, is most of my comments said, yes, trade Darius Slay. Like, I think 80-20 on my comments said, yes, trade Darius Slay, which we seem to forget that he was really, really good this year and wasn't bad at all, right?
I know it. Yeah. I mean, it's a case of what have you done for me lately? And to your point earlier, yes, he did seem to decline a little bit as the season went on, but overall his grades were super high. He finished obviously well within the top 100. I know Pro Football Focus likes to release their top 100 after the season's over. I can't recall the number off the top of my head, but he was well inside, I think, even the top 50 for the numbers there, or at least close to it. But yeah, I mean, you look at it and say, okay, should we consider it? And again, it's a good point of at least bringing it up and thinking about it. But yeah, you have to have at least one veteran. And to me, I think it also comes down to the locker room culture. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like you could certainly make the argument and say, hey, keep Bradbury, don't keep Slay, vice versa, whatever. But when you're talking about a team captain and someone who I think Slay really embodied Philly and embodied the team culture, really brought that, and everybody else kind of rallied around this guy, it's not only like you're just losing a piece of talent, you're losing another guy who's, hey, that's a vocal person in your locker room. That's a big piece of the defense. And with all the changes we've already seen, I think the one constant the thing that you should be trying to do is have at least some constants in the room. So I would not be for trading Slay. But I know there's, like you say, there's lots of people that seem to think that could be a possibility, maybe a better idea. Either way, I am with you though. I mean, you have to keep at least one veteran, because I think we've noticed from looking at all the scouting reports, the mock drafts, what are the Eagles going to do at 10? What are they going to do at 30? They're going to, I would be shocked if they don't, but I'm thinking they're going to take a corner in the first round. That is a team need. Yeah. That is a big item there. Or maybe trade back, sure, but they're going to get a cornerback in the draft. And so then the question becomes, okay, is that person going to have to deliver as CB1, or are they getting to learn a little bit from a veteran like Slay or Bradbury if they go that route?
See, we already got comments saying, John says, I trade Slay for someone who won't effing disappear in the second half of the season. IDK, why y'all think giving Darius a pass? What is the definition of disappear? Not getting an interception, which a lot of cornerbacks didn't get interceptions in the second half of the year. I know a lot of people are upset about the arm tackle of Christian McCaffrey at the NFC title game that we were at when they went, 7-7. But we're really hunting for, disappearing in the second half. I don't think he's a bum. So John says he's too worried about his podcast. Then that means half the players in the league now are too worried about their podcast, because they all have podcasts. Jason Kelce, too worried about his podcast. It's a very popular podcast. They had Jalen Hurts on it yesterday or today or whatever it was. A lot of players have podcasts right now, Josh. A lot of them.
All of them, yes. And he's got Howie Roseman, I believe. I don't know if that's posted yet, but Howie kind of plugged that and said he'd be on the Kelce podcast. So I can't wait to hear that one. But
is Jason Kelce going to announce that he's coming back? I mean, how long is it going to take? It's weird.
I don't know. I was hoping, like, whenever Howie dropped that maybe that's a little bit of, oh, hey, he's going to give us an official update when he joins on his podcast there. But I don't know. You speaking of, you want to go down the route of like what was it going to take, who we're going to keep, who we're not going to keep. The locker room culture, team camaraderie, morale, chemistry, all that. Jason Kelce, I mean, his playing speaks for itself, but that's the guy you want in the locker room. So yes, we really need him back.
I think he's going to come back. I'd be shocked if he absolutely, if he retires. I think he comes back. John says, where was he in the Dallas game? Where was the entire defense in the Dallas game? Didn't Dak go like 18 of 18 on the entire defense? The idea that it was just Darius Slay. And plus, I'm going to make the argument here, and I was getting it with someone on Twitter today, because Howard Eskin, the legend, Eagle silent reporter and, radio legend, was kind of coming at people he came at CJ Garner-Johnson after he took a shot at Jonathan Gannon and said, well, CJ, weren't you playing in the game? Couldn't you have done something to stop, the Chiefs' attack? And it's not just one player, but it's also a little bit of scheme. You could make the argument that it's not just Darius Slay struggling against good quarterbacks. It's Gannon's entire defense. And so where was CJ Garner-Johnson in, the Super Bowl? Where was James Bradbury in the Super Bowl? Where was all these other players in the Super Bowl? I think it's more of a scheme thing. And I think Slay will be just fine with Desai, which we'll talk about here in a second. What about trading Slay and Bradbury and then getting Ramsey? You're just trading old for old, right? And you're doing the same thing, and you're getting a different person in the locker room instead of someone who's been in the locker room, like Josh just said. Didn't make any sense.
No. And if we're talking about getting someone like Ramsey, I think that goes the reverse of what you want in locker room culture. Don't get me wrong. He makes some big plays, but his track record, that's not someone I want with Philly.
Mark says, Thomas and Josh, great collaboration. Sub to both your channels. Thank you. Sub to Josh's channel, link down below in the description box. Slay didn't disappear in the second half. Team stopped throwing his way. Yeah, this whole idea that Slay's a bum, I think is kind of where we end the conversation and move on to something else, because he's a good cornerback. He's one of the best cornerback Philadelphia's had in my lifetime since Asante Samuel. And trading that away when you can restructure his contract and save $13 million in cap space this offseason, to me, seems like an absolute no-brainer. So I'm not going to hear any sort of Darius Slay trade stuff. I'd be shocked to see what they could get for him anyway. You're not getting a first-round draft pick for Darius Slay. It just doesn't happen. You're not going to get a first-round draft pick for Jalen Ramsey. So it just doesn't make sense overall. I want to go ahead and let you bring up Fournette, because we talked about Slay on my show today. You talked about Leonard Fournette on your show today. A lot of people in the chat are talking about Fournette. Running back is weird right now in Philadelphia. It's been a while since we were this, I think, focused in on running back in an offseason. And you pitched Leonard Fournette today on your show, and I don't hate it.
Yeah, it's something that, you got to give thought. We've talked about a number of names, obviously Saquon Barkley, and you got the whole drafting situation of, who could the Eagles possibly draft at running back? Obviously, Bijan is the big name. And as much as I keep dreaming about the possibility of that, I think we face the facts. There's other holes. There's other areas that you have to fill. And realistically, is Howie going to spend a pick on a running back 99 times out of 100? No. But yeah, you then, Derrick Henry's been a name. I know Dalvin Cook we discussed, but then you get the news of Leonard Fournette. And the difference that I feel like with Leonard Fournette is just in terms of the realistic possibility is if you look at the article or you go back to the show whenever I was talking about it today, but he in his comments is basically saying like, hey, I want to leave because I want to win. And you don't always hear that. I mean, players want to cash in on a deal and, they're looking to make some money. Fine. That's all credit, more power to him. That makes perfect sense. Sure, go get a deal. But I kind of think that Fournette's just suggesting like, hey, some contender come get me. Like, I want to win. The reason I'm leaving is because Tom Brady was here. He's not here anymore. And this could be a possibility. But looking at his stats, it's not like he's going to be the bell cow back, but you don't need that. And Kenny Gainwell is going to be, from according to multiple reports, he could be, running back 1 to start the season. So you're really only looking for a tough short yardage, tough grinded out back who also can play a little bit in the passing game. Because let's be honest, I mean, Miles Sanders has been less than average for sure in the passing game. I think that there was a report on him. He was like almost dead last or close to dead last in terms of his yards efficiency, receiving yards, which, someone of his caliber, you just don't expect that. To me, he looks like, he seems like a running back who would be very efficient in the passing game, but he hasn't been. And on the flip side, I think Leonard Fournette, one of the knocks on him whenever he came into the league is, oh, hey, he's sure he can run the football, but what's he going to do in the receiving game? Does he have the ability to run the football, or does he have the ability to catch the football, run after contact, things like, or yards after catch? But he's proven that he has. I mean, last season he had an incredible year, and you saw the connection between him and Brady. So it's something to consider. Again, it's a question of, does he still have it in him? Because you definitely saw him lose a step last year. You can look at his yards per carry. I think it was 3.5 yards per carry on rushing. But if you're not asking him to rush 7 carries a game, couple catches, just be in tandem with Kenny Gainwell, and if they bring back Boston Scott or they have another running back, that could be a possibility. So I think he's the most realistic option. But I still want to see how he explore all avenues, because I can't say 100% I'm sold, but I could see someone like that being definitely motivated. He obviously wants to win. You look at it, Eagles are definitely the number 1 team in the NFC. If you want to repeat, or you want to get a chance at a Super Bowl, there's not a better team you sign up for right now if you're a running back.
And I think that they're trying to kind of recreate the LeGarrette Blount magic of 2017 if they were to go ahead and do that. I do want to pull up what we're looking at here in terms of some of the rookie or some of the running back free agents. If you weren't able to get Fournette, if you were to lose Miles Sanders, there are a lot of options. Now, some of these are going to be either too pricey, they're going to get franchise tag. We can go through the list. Saquon is going to be too pricey. Whether he's a giant or not, we're not going to be able to afford Saquon Barkley. A lot of people in the chat love Kareem Hunt. We've loved Kareem Hunt for 3 years because every single season so far, Philadelphia, the past couple seasons, it's trade deadline. They're going to trade for Kareem Hunt, and then they never trade for Kareem Hunt. So while Kareem Hunt makes some sense, we're not talking about someone who was super productive last year, although he is at a very, competitive running back field, obviously in Cleveland. Then you have some other very interesting names here. Jamal Williams is someone who I see very rarely in my comment section, but he always pops up. I think Jamal Williams is absolutely fantastic. He basically ran DeAndre Swift out of Detroit. They stopped using him because Jamal Williams has been so productive. 1,000-yard back. Talk about all the rushing touchdowns. Only cost $3 million last year, so you're not going to pay him $10 million this year. 7, 8 would be very fair. Keep going down the list. Josh Jacobs, he's going to go back to the Raiders. Ingram is too old. Burkhead, no thanks. Mostert injured too often. Foreman's a 2, not really a 1. And then it's a bunch of kind of, what are you working on here? You got P. Ryan, you got Ronald Jones. Obviously, there's Miles Sanders. You have some other names here like Breida, Latavius Murray, who have had some success. But after those couple of 5, there isn't much there. Hence why a lot of people are saying just go ahead and find someone in the draft. The problem with the draft is Howie only has 5 picks, and Howie doesn't like running backs. And so do you think Howie's going to spend, 20% of his draft picks essentially on a running back? That's where I kind of go, I don't see it happening unless they were to go ahead and trade out of number 10, get some draft pick, extra picks in the round 2 or 3, then grab a running back there. So it does seem like, and I watched your show and you put it out perfectly, Gainwell's going to be RB1, and it's finding that complement to him who is still considered a good back in the National Football League, but is not going to be required to carry the football 20 to 25, times a game, because Philly's just never going to do that. When Hurts takes 10 to 15 carries a game, of your actual rushing totals, there isn't a need for a big-time workhorse running back. And I think overall, that's how Howie Roseman views the running back position.
Yep. I agree. No, I think you're right. He's not going to use draft capital on that. I think we've seen it. It's proven time and time again. He's going to get the guys who block for the running back, and then just figure out to get someone healthy, get a body back there, and hope that that's successful. But yeah, no, I'm right on with you. Another thing I actually wanted to bring up, so kind of shifting gears here, obviously, but the big news we were waiting for. Hey, OC, DC, what are they going to do? Obviously, it's official. We got Sean Desai. I'm excited about that potential. I know you've been looking into it. You've spoken a couple times on your show. But I'd be curious to hear your take. And I also saw Pedro Sarate here who's saying different topic, but do you guys know anything related to different schemes that Desai may differ from Gannon? Have you seen any reports? Have you heard anything about the difference? I know that Sirianni in his press conference was saying like, yeah, it's going to be pretty similar. The reason we liked him is it's some similarities there. But I guess curious overall your thoughts of Desai first, but then if you've seen or heard anything differently there.
Desai is weird because there isn't really like a body of work. Well, now he has a lot bigger body work than some of the guys that they interviewed in terms of NFL body work. He was a defensive coordinator for a year, but he was a defensive coordinator for a year with some bad players on a bad football team that really is hard to judge, right? You put good coaches on good teams, they might have better success overall. He's going to be a little bit different from everything I have seen, and that he's going to actually mix up his pressures and mix his fronts up a little bit more. Philadelphia would put that 5-man front up a lot, basically a 4-man front plus Reddick on one side, but it was always Reddick on this side, always Sweat on that side. They would never move people around. And I think that Desai likes to kind of move people in the defensive line a lot more. I saw times that they would line up, I think because Khalil Mack was still there, they would line up Khalil Mack and their other pass rusher on the same side. So you have, the two best pass rushers on your defense coming from one side versus, two sides. And then you got to, shift your pressure over to that side, bringing it back to chip and all that sort of stuff. So I think you're going to have a difference there. What I have not seen anything on is what he's going to do coverage wise. Is he going to be more press? Is he going to be more zone? Because that will factor into Darius Slay versus James Bradbury, because I think that they're different in that area. I don't know the coverage sort of scheme, but all I know is it's got to be different than Jonathan Gannon, because there's nothing more infuriating than it being 3rd down and 2 and the defensive backs being 7 yards, 8 yards off of the receivers in what is, simple math that makes absolutely no sense. I like the hire. They obviously love Vic Fangio. They obviously wanted Vic Fangio. Had they lost to the Niners in the NFC title game, they would have hired Vic Fangio on the spot. Make no doubt about that. But they couldn't get Vic Fangio because the Dolphins offered him like $4 million, which is insane. And they basically got the next best thing. He's young. It's basically getting Gannon all over again in terms of the unknown. And the upside is hopefully he's Gannon, because Gannon was successful, but actually good against good quarterbacks, because that's the big knock on Jonathan Gannon. So I have nothing against it, but the same thing goes for Brian Johnson. Until we see these guys actually call plays with the Philadelphia Eagle rosters, we're not going to know if they're good. I love the Brian Johnson hire, but you can go back to Brian Johnson as an OC with the Florida Gators, which is like forever ago, and does not transition to the National Football League in terms of play calling. And then he was the quarterback coach, which is great. Our quarterback was pretty good this year, but I got to see play calls. I got to see 3rd down and 2, time winding down. What do you have called for me? How confident are you? Because as much as people like to rip Shane Steichen at times, Steichen's play calling was very good. My favorite thing that Shane Steichen ever did on this long-winded answer, he would watch the play. As soon as the play would end, he would turn his back to the offense, start walking down the opposite side of the football field, and start calling the play that way. To the point of, you can tell his brain's working. He doesn't need to see the defense because he already knows who substitute in, turn around, start walking the other direction, get the menu up, call the play, move on. I thought he did a great job of that for 98% of the drives that Philadelphia had this year. I just got to see these guys in action first, and so I don't really have a big opinion other than, cool, it sounds like these guys are great,
Yep. No, I know. I want to see him. I can't wait to see them in action. I loved. Obviously, you're always going to be excited about it, but Nick did seem genuinely enthusiastic about, hey, we've got our guys. These are the guys. We're going to be successful. Excited to see what we can do. Obviously, Nick is an offensive-minded coach, so he even said he's going to be he's always been in the room with Brian Johnson, but they're going to be working together for the offense. So, yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait. You mentioned Vic Fangio, and yes, that was a route that would have been a potential, something the Eagles would have considered, obviously, and very much been on board with. But from everything that I've read and heard, it seems like you, as close of a Vic Fangio disciple as you can get is Sean Desai. So, I don't know. Obviously, there's a lot of improving, but it's maybe the next best scenario. I hope that's what it turns into. But yeah, the things that I've read and everything, we can expect similar to Fangio type of tendency. So less blitzing. what was it? I think it was like 31st in the league whenever Desai was the defensive coordinator in terms of blitzing. But then that brings up a good point. Okay, so what does that look like for the corners? Does that mean more man press coverage, or is that dropping back in zone? If you're not blitzing, then you're going to have a bunch of different schemes in terms of stunts up front, different variations of where the linemen line up. I did see the one what you were talking about with defensive ends on the same side, but I'm curious, and I think the unknown is going to work to our advantage. It's a lot of times you do get an unproven coordinator, but the benefit is there's really not a lot of film. You could say 1 year with the Bears, but yet as a offensive coordinator, I can't really just pull up the Bears film and be like, hey, this is exactly what the Eagles are going to do. So hey, good luck trying to figure out what's going to go on.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think to close out the new coaching section of this show and move on to something else, people in our positions who talk about football, whether they have YouTube channels or they have radio shows or they are on Fox Sports or ESPN, the majority of talking heads that weren't former football players don't know schemes. Let's be very clear. The majority of us who didn't actually coach at a decently high level, because some people would say, "Oh, I coached high school." No. College, NFL, did you coach? Did you play? We don't fully understand schemes. And it drives me nuts when you see talking heads try to understand and be like, oh, well, this is very clearly a cover 2 situation. And obviously that's what you want to do versus, a press man. Stop. Most of us don't know what we're talking about in terms of schemes. We can read and we can kind of, remember and then spew it out to you. But Josh and I will be the first people to tell you we don't know if it's going to work, honestly, just from an X's and O's standpoint. We like the hire. Other people who are smarter than us like the hire, but at the same time, we're not going to know until we actually see a product in the field. And anyone who doesn't have coaching experience trying to explain to you why Sean Desai's system is going to be so much more successful versus Jonathan Gannon's, odds are they really don't know what they're talking about, because you can have a very rudimentary idea of how NFL defenses work, like Josh and I do, and compared to an actual defensive coordinator, we have no idea. Absolutely no idea. So we both like it, which is clear, but honestly, I have no idea. Other questions here. Let's go to some chats questions, and we'll move on. We can't afford Bradbury. We had to go through the draft, says Dank. I agree. I think Bradbury is going to get paid out the wazoo. If you're a team that has money, and there are teams have money this year, Atlanta has a ton of money, the Raiders have a ton of money, you can just throw some money at a cornerback, lock down that side of your defense, and then go address other positions. There's just no way. Let me see here. DTSP, one of our first round picks to pair with Williams. I agree. We'll get to Jalen Carter in a second. I saw that chat. I want to bring up Jalen Carter to see Josh's thoughts here. I think we're drafting a corner. I think we agree with that. Fournette, Gainwell, Scott combo is going to complement the RPO system well. I agree. And Fournette would be great, especially if you were to lose, which something Josh talked about on the show, I think today or yesterday, the quarterback sneak, which is stupid, but it's a possibility. They're looking at it, right now.
It seems to be gaining traction. I feel like it's going to be a given, but it's ridiculous.
Let's see here. Parker, Washington agenda, such a great fit. Let me see here. We do want ring chasers. Yeah, I think that's pretty obvious. I don't want James Bradbury. I want Byron Murphy, but he's much younger and better. There's a mock draft that we trade down from 10 to 16, get Joey Porter Jr. Would you like that if that happens? I would. I'm very excited to see what Joey Porter Jr. does at the combine. I believe he's going to do everything. And so, corner is one of those things at the combine where you can watch how fast they are and watch what their measurables are, and it'll tell you a lot. Josh, you talked about the special teams coach extension on your channel. Curious, you think Devin Allen would be a better returner? Thomas, what are your thoughts? Go for that one, Josh, because you did talk about extending the special teams coordinator, which was weird.
Yeah, that was shocking to me, and I did talk about it. I'm hoping, again, I think you even mentioned it too. It's we're going to trust that the guys in the profession know a lot more than we do, so I'll give them that. But the immediate knee-jerk reaction is like, wait, what? You rank 29th, 30th in the league, and you're getting a raise. So I'm going to trust that they know what they're doing. Mike Clay is, hopefully going to turn it around. There's only room for improvement from the performance last season. I don't know though. Honestly, I'm open for anything. I think it can't get any worse. I would be curious to see Allen's speed, and turn him loose. But it's not always the case of. You could argue. Devin Hester, and there are some great return men that are super blazing fast, but it's not always the case. You just say, hey, get the fastest guy on the team and make him a returner. We're not playing Madden here. In Madden, that works perfectly fine. But for the NFL, you got to have a guy who's seasoned in it, can see the route that they're going to take, that they're going to get, see the blocks and be able to obviously catch a football too, and be able to read it in the air. So there's a lot of things that go on to it. But at this point, I would say I'm open to it because, again, if you just look at the stats and the rankings, we were close to last. but we don't even need the stats to tell us that. The eye test was
Yeah.
what was the weakness of this team, and it was special teams. So if we could just scrap everything and start over, I'm all for that.
I do think special teams is another one of these things that everyone wants to have a good one, but then you realize there aren't a lot of good special teams units in the National Football League. No one's returning kicks these days. Very few people return punts. I mean, Kadarius Toney had the longest punt return in NFL history, and that was, this Super Bowl. And so while it's nice to have, and I do think they need to make an upgrade because I like Britton Covey, but he was awful this year, and they need to do punter and all that sort of thing. The idea that we need to get, a top 3 special teams unit to be able to win football games is dumb because we had one of the worst and won a bunch of football games. So I think that they, know more than we do, like you just said, in terms of this coach. He had a bad job, like Clay's his name or whatever, but we'll see what happens. And the whole Devin Allen thing, the worst thing that ever happened to Philadelphia Eagles Twitter was watching Devin Allen run the 100-meter hurdles because everyone and their mom saw that and they said, "Oh, we got a punter." And then they signed him. We're like, "Oh my gosh, we got a punter. This guy's going to be incredible." Mm-hmm. And then he couldn't even get in as the punt returner this season. Couldn't even be elevated to the active roster, which tells you they were trying. I say this like 8 times a day to people. They probably tried to get Devin Allen up to speed on punt returns. I guarantee you his issue was he couldn't field them because he was too, I got to field it. And then, someone's going to smack him. I bet he fumbled too many times in practice. And they said we'd rather have Covey return for 3 yards than get obliterated than Devin Allen catch the football, fumble it, and then they're done. So special teams is fine. My special teams, though, is field goals. I care about making field goals first. Everything else can come second because if you're winning football games like the Eagles should be, you're not going to win or lose because you can't return a punt more than 15 yards. So I don't know. We'll see.
Risk reward is not worth it at that point.
Exactly. And we don't have
make
draft
some
picks
field
for
goals.
It.
Yep.
Yeah. We have
make
5
some field goals and get a punter that, maybe can.
Now, be ready, Josh, because next week at this time, we're doing, the Wednesday Linc every single Wednesday night. There will be some wide receiver who runs a 4.2 tomorrow or the next day, and you're going to see his name pop up in the comment section like 80 billion times. We should draft him. He'd be a great punt returner. Just be ready for it because it's going to happen.
It always does. Yes, there's that one guy that gets all the news, all the coverage, fastest in the combine. Yep, I'm waiting for it.
See, and like this comment from Bob, I think Devin Allen may be better than Covey. I do too, but the Eagle coaching staff are absolute idiots, and they couldn't see that Devin Allen was better, or they are not idiots, and they tried to see if Devin Allen was better, and he wasn't. There's only it's either this or that, right? It's only one of these two things, and I just don't think they're that stupid to where they watched Britton Covey be terrible all year, and also the kick, return coverage, I guess, be terrible all year, and they still went, no, we don't want to play Devin Allen. It just doesn't make sense. Okay, quickly before we go ahead and move on, be sure to like the show because if you hit the like button, it helps out the show. We only have 40 likes right now, so we got to go ahead and bump that up. And if you have not subscribed to Josh's show, it's awesome. I think Josh has the cleanest overall setup of anyone doing Eagles things on YouTube. The black background with the light and everything, it's really good. Be sure to go ahead and subscribe to him. It's down below in the description box. I could probably throw it up in the chat right now as well. I think there it is. So everyone go subscribe to Josh. Let's get him to 1,000 subs here as quickly as possible. Devin Witherspoon is a better fit than Joey Porter Jr. is. Guys, at this point, it's really hard to know, and it's really hard for me and Josh to know. And anybody, again, who has a show, who didn't play before, you're just guessing if Witherspoon's better than Joey Porter Jr. I'm fine for either. I'm fine for either. Because remember, great example, Devontae Smith draft. There were a bunch of wide receivers in that draft, and it was literally, who do you want? And some of us wanted Waddle, and some of us wanted Devontae Smith. Right? And in the end, who was better? Well, Eagle fans will say Devontae Smith. Dolphin fans will say Jalen Waddle. Both of them are correct because they're both fantastic. You could swap them right now. They'd both be very successful. So we can, try guess who's better right now. A lot of people think Witherspoon is cornerback number 1, so I'll go with the crowd. But at the same time, I don't know. I really don't know.
Nope. That's the beauty of the draft and the beauty of the combine and everything else. But how often do you see, the quote unquote experts say, hey, this guy, and you read their old scouting report and it's like, what a miss. What a terrible, how that take aged is the worst ever. So yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm looking forward to seeing some of the guys. I know that, there's the comment of Christian is better than Witherspoon and by Myron there, I could possibly see that. I've heard that Christian Gonzalez is supposed to, from the experts, test out off the charts. We'll see. What is it? I think corners are, what is that, Friday? Yeah, Friday. So tomorrow's D-line and linebackers, but it'll be interesting. We'll see.
Yeah, actually, I was literally looking at that as you pulled it up here. Tomorrow we get D linemen and linebackers. We get to watch which 300-pounder can run, very fast. DBs will go on March 3rd. Quarterback, wide receiver, tight end is always going to get a bunch of love because it's all about speed. And then we'll watch Bijan Robinson run like a 4.4, and everyone's going to absolutely wet their pants when he does that. So just be ready for that as well, because that's going
I
to
may
happen.
change my take if that happens.
I'm telling you, if he's going to run a 4.4, if he runs a sub 4.4, people are going to go nuts, and he'll probably go in the top 5, and it'll be Zeke all over again. Let's see here. What are we doing? Oh, Philly Talk Podcast. What is up? He says, let's see. Eagle fans, JPJ. That's moving too fast. Penn State might have something to do with it. LOL at 3. Nice. Philly Talk Podcast. Whatever. Everyone's saying hi there. Okay, I want to bring up Jalen Carter because I see this from Atlanta-Delphia Eagle Sports Talk, who it must be in Atlanta. I'm in Atlanta as well. If Jalen Carter is at 10, draft him. If not, draft Cansey at 30. Let's talk about Jalen Carter for a second, because for those of you who don't know, see, Marcel said it here as well. Jalen Carter, probably the best player in the draft. I mean, consensus best player in the draft from a lot of people out there. Some say he's better than Will Anderson, the inside defensive lineman or defensive tackle, whatever you want to call him, from Georgia. He's a beast. What could go 1 to the Bears, could go for sure in the top 5, right? He's the man, along with Will Anderson and the quarterbacks who are getting the most hype. Well, he was literally 20 minutes away from going to the podium at the NFL Combine and talking to a just mountain of reporters. And then there was news that released that the Athens Police Department had, I think, allegedly released warrants for his arrest, right? I got to say the correct terms, the journalism term for that, right? And so they have warrants out for his arrest. He's flying back to Athens to whatever the word is, seek those charges.
I think he said he's going to address it and take care of it.
Yeah, so he's probably going to get arrested, right? He's going to get arrested, go through the legal system, and now the question is what happens to his draft stock? And there are a couple of thoughts here, because one, you got to take the football things aside here whenever we get the legal issues and worry about the fact that the street racing, I believe, allegedly someone died because of it, whether it was Jalen Carter's fault or not. I do not know the details of it, but he has to go through the full legal process first. And so you can't really worry about him until that is done, because you can't draft somebody that's going to go to jail if allegedly he's going to go. No idea, right? That's the whole point. No idea. Let's say he's cleared, though. If he's cleared from a strictly football standpoint, I'm all in at number 10. I would trade up to 8. I would move up to 7. I would go up to 6. I don't care. He would be an absolute monster for many, many, many years to come, especially if you're going to lose Javon Hargrave. There is no argument that if there's a chance for you to go ahead and get Jalen Carter inside the top 10, you do it. It's just going to be fascinating to see how quickly this legal stuff gets cleaned up, because legal stuff doesn't get cleaned up quickly most of the time. And the draft is, what are we, less than 2 months away, right? Mm-hmm. So this isn't a Laramie Tunsil video of him, smoking the bong joint or the gas mask joint on draft night, and he starts to go ahead and drop. Teams are going to have 2 months to kind of monitor this whole legal situation. They will send people to Athens. They will interview everybody in Athens, and they will make a decision there. But I think he's so good that some team might just be like, hey, we don't care. He could redshirt a year and play next season, and we'll still take him at number 4. So we'll see. Mm-hmm. I would love him, though. Long-winded answer, please. He's fantastic.
Oh, yeah. I mean, his talent his tape speaks for itself. Everybody's, I'm sure, saw multiple Georgia games. But I'm with you. It's hard until we know for sure. In a way, it's like, okay, at least there are a couple months to hopefully cipher through this and figure out what's going on. But if he is cleared and no issues there, absolutely, you have to take him. Like you said, moving up to get a player of his talent, he can play on inside, outside. He's just an absolute beast. But I don't know. I mean, talk about terrible timing and situation, everything else that he was in, and I don't know what's true. We're still obviously waiting to hear what the actual news is, but it's serious anytime that there's even a warrant for your arrest. So we're just gonna have to wait and see.
Chin A says Jalen Carter charged with reckless driving and racing. That's what it was. I think he's would be good or worth the pick unless Goodell says he's going to suspend him for a year. I would agree with all of that. You don't know what the NFL is going to do. The NFL might not say what they're going to do because they have to wait for the legal process, that sort of thing. We're looking at 2 misdemeanors. Someone else just said right there. Also possibly true. The problem now is what kind of player is this? A systemic thing like that he has gotten into trouble at times at UGA, and this is kind of the first one that's really come to light. Unsure, but teams. I mean, it's almost like CSI Miami or whatever, one of these crime shows, whenever it comes to the NFL draft, they have investigators for every single team, whether you want to call them an investigator or not, who are flying down. They are interviewing coaches. They're interviewing family members. They're interviewing friends. They're interviewing girlfriends. They're interviewing everybody to make sure that you are going to be worthy of a top 10 pick, because if you're taking the top 10, you're worth $30, $40, $50 million to our organization, and you have to hit. So people will do their due diligence. They will do their due diligence. The question is, obviously, is it a character thing? Is it a one-time thing? No idea, and we'll let it all go ahead and play out. Fly Eagles Fly says Jalen Carter's going to the Raiders. They always get criminals. Okay. Okay. Plenty of other guys aren't Jalen Carter. Okay. Let's see. Could Carter slide to 30 if they suspend him? He would definitely slide far. I don't know if he'd slide to 30, but you're basically saying that your first-round draft pick is useless, and we all know first-round draft picks, they got to play. They got to play in year one. So we will see. Thomas is on to something. Will he continue to do boneheaded things as a pro? Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. And when was the last time, Josh, Philadelphia had a quote-unquote, bonehead player on their organization or on their roster who was making dumb decisions? Philly is not known for really doing this. Like, Philly has very little locker room drama. I mean, Terrell Owens was the most drama Philadelphia's had maybe in my lifetime. There hasn't been much. There's been little cases here and there, but the Eagles have very much stayed away from drama versus a team like the Dallas Cowboys, who absolutely love it.
Yeah. And, you credit most of that to Howie. He's obviously very analytical. He's going to take a very methodical approach at how he, views every player and what's their fit going to be in the locker room and everything else. So, yeah, this is, I think from the football perspective, obviously, Jalen Carter checks every box. There's not a concern one bit. So, if he were to fall to you, absolutely you'd take him. But like we've been saying, the unknown is, are there character issues? Or is there a deeper thing beyond this? And figuring out what the truth is. I've heard reports that he lied to an officer about speeding, and he had returned, I think what the story said, he had returned to the site a couple hours after. So you just don't know. It's early. It's breaking news. It's sad, nonetheless, but we just got to wait and see what they ultimately decide.
People are now telling me that there were a lot of Eagle players. I'm going through the list here. Josh Sills. Okay, Josh Sills was a backup guy who got removed immediately. What did Josh Huff do? I forget what Josh Huff did. I can't remember. It rings a bell that he did something. I don't remember what it was. Nigel Bradham, didn't he brandish a gun or something? I don't know. I don't want to say allegedly. Bradham did something. Okay, Dank says Michael Vick, but we got to remember Michael Vick was given the seal of approval by Tony Dungy. If there's any human being who I would trust 100% to vouch for somebody in terms of an NFL player, it's Tony Dungy. The guy is as solid as they come. If Tony Dungy said, guys, he's different, he's clean, he's changed, I would listen to Tony Dungy. Alshon was low-key dramatic. He was dramatic, but he didn't do anything illegal. Let's see. Are there any others? Yeah, I know Josh Sills, but okay, come on. Yeah, see, Michael Vick did not do a boneheaded thing. Oh, gun charges. Is that what Huff did? Huff shot a gun at a club, I think. I don't remember. Josh Huff was another one of those receivers that we pretended was really good and then never actually was, just like Jordan Matthews, just like Dorial Green Beckham. I remember thinking Dorial Green Beckham was the second coming of Odell Beckham, just taller, and he was horrific, but goodness gracious. I think my biggest, every Eagle fan has blinders to something. Mine is wide receivers. And because we always had bad ones, I would try and convince myself that they were actually good. And anytime we had a decent receiver on our roster, I thought they were just the greatest thing since sliced bread. I was so bought into Jordan Matthews. I was super bought into that undrafted guy who was great 2 years ago with Carson Wentz. What was his name? He caught all those balls and then just stunk. Oh my gosh, what was his name? Didn't he wear 13? Undrafted, caught 8 touchdowns in 5 games, and then done. Goodness gracious. What was his name? Got to help me on the chat. It was Carson Wentz's favorite target. Fulgham. Yes, thank you, Andrew. Travis Fulgham. Remember Travis Fulgham?
Of course,
I was
Fulgham.
Oh my gosh, we got a steal. Yep. And he's not even in the league, I think so. I'm very wrong when it comes to receivers
like that, but
I thought he was the guy.
Backs, but it's probably because we don't usually value running backs. So if we ever get a guy who's even possible, I know we're going way back, but I'm going to out myself here. I really thought DeMarco Murray was going to turn out. So
oh my gosh,
I wanted to stick it to the Cowboys. Say, oh hey, look what your guy. But that was a failure.
I almost have blocked that year out of my memory from Eagles history because
I wish I could. I really wish
we got DeMarco, and then we had someone flew the banner behind the Cessna at Cowboys training camp where it said we got DeMarco or whatever, and I was like, we're winning the Super Bowl, and then we were so trash, so bad. Oh, who was the other running back? Because we had 2. We got the Charger guy, 24. Oh, what was his name? I feel like I'm 90 years old tonight. We had him, and we had the Charger running back. And I thought we were going to have the best 1-2 punch in history. And it was also Sam Bradford. And remember, they had that opening preseason game against the Packers. And Sam Bradford was like 17 of 17. And it was Ryan Matthews. Thank you, John. Ryan Matthews balled out. And I was like, we are incredible. And we were so not incredible at all. So bad. Ryan Matthews. Jeez, I'm blanking on names right now. That is a name. Wow.
There are definitely moments where you certainly try to block it out of your head, and that's one that I would love to.
I drink the Kool-Aid.
Bradford era.
I drink the Kool-Aid. I saw this comment that I wanted to get into. I talked about it on my show today. Oh my gosh, a lot of comments right now. Be sure to thumbs up, guys. Thumbs up the shows as we keep going here for another 30 minutes. Asked about the CJ Garner-Johnson tweet this morning. I'm sure you saw that tweeting, quote tweeting, essentially Elliot Shore-Parks' tweet from Jonathan Gannon at the Combine, talking about, what did you do wrong in the second half? And Gannon falls in the sword like he has 3 times in a row now, saying, we didn't make enough adjustments, and it's my fault, and blah, blah, blah. First take on CJ Garner-Johnson doing that tweet is hilarious, because it's like, he's one of us. We all hate Jonathan Gannon, and he didn't make adjustments, and so we blame him. Second thought, though, is, a little bit immature, a little bit surprising, being that he's a free agent. It's kind of weird to take shots at coaches, but I like it as a fan, as someone who's, thinking about a business acquisition, in terms of a player, signing somebody. A little bit cheesy, but in the end, it's not a big deal. But it was funny. I thought it was funny this morning. I was like, and then he deleted it because his agent probably said, "Hey, you idiot, delete that because we're trying to get money from."
I was going to say that did take long for his agent to say, "Did you just really tweet that?" And that immediately came down. Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, as soon as you see it, it's. I totally agree. It's what all of us were thinking. I think you mentioned that in your show today, but it's on all of our minds. We've said it time and time and time again, and Gannon admitted to it. So, credit to him at least for admitting his mistake and saying, "Hey, I didn't put the players in the right positions. I didn't make the adjustments and all that." But yeah, as a player who's pending free agency or, figure that whole contract situation out, not the smartest decision. That's not really what you go out and do. But I mean, that's why we love him, right? I mean, you could say it's probably not the smartest decision, not really the right decision to be made to tweet that. But what I love is, I mean, CJ wears his emotion on his sleeve and he plays on the field like it. That's why you get all the hits that he has, the way he's a ball hawk, he's flying around. So, that's his personality, and CJ is going to be CJ. Wasn't the best, smartest decision today, I don't think, but I mean, you know what you got in CJ.
Someone just said, agent said, "Go to sleep, CJ." That's exactly what the agent's
and then he said, "I'm going back to sleep."
Literally, the agent's job is like, delete that right now. Delete it right now. If I was an agent in the NFL, I would say, let me have your Twitter password just so I can damage control quickly if you were to say something. It's funny. It's not that big a deal, but it is funny. People keep bringing up names from the Chip Kelly era, and it's just Kiko Alonso and Byron Maxwell. Goodness gracious. Oh my gosh. Remember they trade McCoy. I was at Baylor. I think you were still at Baylor as well, because if people didn't know, we were at Baylor together. Josh was just ahead of me in terms of years, but I was walking to some weird science lab, and we're communications guys, so we didn't actually have to take hard sciences. I'm taking some stupid science lab, and I get the message saying that we traded Sean McCoy for Kiko Alonso straight up, and I about died. It was one of the dumbest things ever. But then Kiko Alonso had that pick of Matt Ryan. We opened at Atlanta. He had that tip pass pick, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's great. And then nope, he wasn't great. And Byron Maxwell, horrific, horrible.
Oh my gosh.
One of the great fleeces of the Howie Roseman era, just trash. Oh my gosh.
These are some names here. It's going back down.
I know.
Not good memory lane. This is
goodness gracious. You want a crazy memory lane? Watch that. I think it was a Sunday night game. Vince Young's Eagles against the Giants on Sunday Night Football. I watched those highlights like 2 weeks ago and was just like, what alternate universe am I watching? Because I remember that being a kid. Goodness gracious.
I don't need to relive those.
Whatever happened to free speech? Brian, no one's saying that CJ can't tweet that. It's just like, is it the best idea? You get fired from your marketing job. You immediately take a shot at your old marketing boss on LinkedIn while recruiters are looking at your LinkedIn profile and they go, is this guy a team player? I don't know.
Not the best look.
Do you remember Bradley Fletcher? Yes. Please don't remind me. Mark G. Thomas, if somehow you are staring, is that staring? Yes. At Joey Porter Jr. and Bijan Robinson, both sitting at 10, who would you take? Right now, I would say Joey Porter Jr., but as Josh said earlier, if Bijan Robinson runs a sub 4.4 on Saturday, or on, what is it? Yeah, Saturday, then we're all going to be like, Bijan. Okay, the Bijan conversation is the most polarizing conversation in all of Philly sports right now because everyone's talking about it. Everyone's imagining it. Everyone can see how we just pulling the trigger and just going for it. It's just such a weird this and that pull for me because we all want him, but is he going to be the difference in winning a Super Bowl? And I don't know the answer to that because he might be. What if Bijan rushes for 1,700 yards next year, 10 touchdowns, and then defenses have to cover A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, and Bijan Robinson, throwing Dallas Goedert? Maybe it's unstoppable. But then what if we can't stop anyone on the secondary and stop anyone on the defensive line and get no pressure? And then it goes, you lose 31-35. I don't know what to do with Bijan Robinson. I don't know.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
That's really the big question. And that's why probably you talked about, what's the position that you can have blinders about and you want it to be the next great, but that's probably why running back for me, because it seems like there's always a great offensive line. It's like, hey, can we just get one stud running back, like, hey, all these guys had great numbers. Miles Sanders had 1,300 yards, but what if we get the next great, the absolute stud and put him behind this offensive line? So, yeah, it's enticing. You see Bijan, you see his highlights, you see what he can do, all the scouting reports, and then, you top it off, like you say, if he goes and runs a sub 4.4, oh my gosh, yeah, I would very much hope at that point that we're at least considering him. But again, it always comes back to what's Howie going to do, and I don't think it's in his mind at all. I mean, I really don't.
No.
Genuinely, if you were to ask me right now, lie detector test, is Howie even possibly considering Bijan? No, he's not. And I'm saddened by that, but just that's how it is. That's how he is.
Bijan's official 40-time, I don't know when someone did this because he hasn't run the combine. They're saying 4.49 is what Google says. So 4.49,
okay.
Anything below that could be big. Zeke's official 40-time was 4.47. So if he's actually below 4.4, it sounds like it won't be. But
how long did 4.47 hold up?
Yeah.
He was like a 4.7, 4.8 this year.
Yeah. Just subscribe this week. Love the content. Brendan, I appreciate that. Hopefully it's to both channels, myself, Josh as well. Josh down below. Josh's channel is blowing up by the way, guys. It's one of the fastest I've seen in the NFL Eagle area. He's at 80 subscribers in a week, which is unbelievable. So be sure to go ahead and subscribe to him. 1,000 is the magic number that everyone in YouTube world tries to get to. So if you want to help him get to 1,000, go ahead, hit the subscribe button. Really, really great stuff. And we're going to do this every single week. So you might as well. We talk about running backs and then everybody immediately goes out of here and says, oh, well, Bijan's incredible. And then some people say, stop talking about Bijan. It's never going to happen. Then some people say, oh, the guy from UCLA is better or the running back Gibbs is better. And so running back is such a weird topic, but it's probably going to be all for naught because the Eagles probably won't take him. Let's just be real. They cut Zeke. You think Howie will give him a 1-year prove-it contract? I would be so shocked if they did that. And
I hope they don't.
I don't like calling out content creators. I know I mentioned Derek Gunn earlier, but he did say trade Darius Slay, and that's a good topic. Lord Brunson, who we've had on the show before, love Lord Brunson. His hurt season hats are incredible. He is the one who's really championing Zeke on a 1-year prove-it deal, and I get it from the standpoint of 3rd and 1, but at the same time, Zeke is a little dramatic, in my opinion. And I don't know if Zeke's any good anymore. Honestly, I don't know if he's good anymore. Pollard has completely taken over that position. When Pollard was out, Zeke had to fill in. He didn't look that great. And plus, is Zeke going to play for $1 million next year? Probably not. So I'm out. I really don't. Plus, I really have grown to hate Ezekiel Elliott, and I hate this.
Yeah.
Like this really pisses me off watching him do it because he did it so much on us when he was actually good. It's like I just can't. I just can't do it. I can't do it.
No, I would absolutely hate that. I'm with you.
Respect Lord Brunson, but I can't.
Yeah. And you could always bring up other examples of people who were able to resurrect their career and looked like they were on the end of their leg and they actually came back and played pretty good for a season or two. A lot of people doubted BG for that matter. Look at what he did last season.
Yeah,
but
true.
I'm sorry. The eye test with Zeke, I'm totally with you. I don't care for him at all to begin with, but he looks like not a shell of himself. I mean, there's no explosiveness, there's no tough running. I don't see why waste it. Don't even take a shot. There's other guys. If you want to say, hey, let's give him a 1-year prove-it deal, do it to Leonard Fournette. I would take him over Zeke.
How many rushing yards does Ezekiel Elliott have last year? Guess. I just Googled it.
Oh man,
I'm surprised.
900.
Yeah, 876.
Okay.
I would have thought it was like 500, but no. Lord
Well,
Brunson
with 17 games, it's kind of
That's
it's
true.
not as impressive. It's not as
That's
impressive
true.
to get to 900 these days.
231 carries. Jeez, maybe Lord Brunson is right. I like GG Meta saying Lord Brunson probably making Zeke season hats. He probably sell a lot of them too. I went to 3 Eagle games this year, one of which was with Josh for the NFC title game, and I saw my fair share of Hurt season hats. Those things are crazy. Those things sell. He must have sold thousands. I bet
Those are
he sold.
legit.
Well, as soon as AJ Brown posted that Twitter from like the Eagles media day,
you're done.
Man,
that's all you
buy
gotta
the
do.
vacation house. Good for him. That's good stuff. My goodness. Are y'all going live for the draft? Yes. We haven't talked about it, but yes, we will be live for the first round. Probably first and second round. Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. It would be the draft is first round of the draft is one of the most fun nights because by the time you get to round 1 of the draft, you know every single player and you know where they're like supposed to go, and so yes, the Wednesday Linc will be live, so for sure. But this Wednesday Linc, me and Josh, every single Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern time from here on out. And normally we will go past 8 p.m. Eastern time a little bit, but I have to jump on a work call with Asia, and Asia's time is really messed up, and so I have to get on a call at 8 p.m. tonight, so I can't stay late.
And you're talking about the continent Asia.
Yes,
person.
Right, the continent Asia. I'm calling the entire continent of Asia. June, appreciate the $2 super chat. Howie Smart Hell sign Hunt defense first 3 picks. I wouldn't hate that. Eagle fans love Kareem Hunt. Everyone in Eagle land loves Kareem Hunt. I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't hate it. It'd be cheap. It'd be very cheap. How much did Kareem Hunt make last year?
What was his contract?
Wasn't a lot. So, he made $6 million. That's not bad. He had 455 rushing yards. It's not bad. That's not bad. I appreciate the super chat, though. That's how you get your question up on the screen. Good stuff there.
And I do hope that they take defense first 3 picks, especially, hey, you get it solved running back in free agency. That sets it up for, yes, take defense early and often. Even I would like trading back, quite honestly. I did that in the mock draft.
Your mock draft
that's usually good. Howie. So I would be happy. I would be happy if those were our picks.
I got to pull. I want to pull up your mock draft here because I thought it was. Do we have a list of? Okay, so you went Witherspoon in the first round, right? Which I think is great. You went Witherspoon in the first round. Then at the end of the first round, who did you take here? You went defensive line, right?
We traded back. First. Yep.
I can't remember what it was.
And then we got traded back to 39. So
okay,
I like Pro Football Focus. They're obviously. They try to make it as even as possible. You have no clue what's going to happen on draft day. But after trading back, I think it's Maisie or Mozzie Smith. I didn't see
the Michigan defensive lineman. Yep.
I think he'll be a stud. He's a little more of a run stopper, kind of anchor your defense. So you got to figure out scheming wise and when you're actually going to play him. But at that point, I would like Collegiate Cansey more, but he was already gone. But I think you still wouldn't go wrong at that point. Again, we're still guessing, but based on grades, rankings, what people are saying, I think that would be great. And I got an A-. So for what that's worth,
not bad. Here it is. Witherspoon.
There you go.
Smith. You went Chabernet, which people would go nuts for in round 2 because you traded out of 30. So that's why you got 2 second-round draft picks. Carl Brooks, the edge rusher, and then Sam Laporta. I like the idea of a tight end. I do wonder if Grant Calcaterra can do something this year, but we'll see. I like this mock though.
I'd like to see a second tight end. Yeah,
very realistic mock here. People do these mock simulators and they're not realistic at all. And then this is very realistic in terms of like what Howie could actually do. That was really good on your channel. I saw a comment I really wanted to mention. Where was it? Let's see. Thomas, a fan of a bunch of teams. He's not an Eagle fan. That's right. I have all this gear because I hate the Eagles. It's just it's a big conspiracy. All this stuff that I've had since I was a little kid. Yeah.
You're faking it pretty good.
I bought 3 Eagle tickets this year, including 2 playoff tickets, which were not cheap because I like other teams. Linc. Biggest question is linebacker. I have no clue what they will do. If they don't re-sign TJ Edwards, then I agree. I have no idea. Because then you need 2 linebackers.
To me, that's a similar answer, honestly. I mean, you were talking about you would like to keep at least one corner, whether it's Slay or Bradbury. I think linebacker is the same scenario. I mean, you either keep Edwards or you keep White. I mean, We did, I think, on last week's show, kind of talking about the linebacker depth or lack of depth in the NFL draft this year. I mean, according to reports and all that. So if you're going into it thinking that there's a lack of depth in linebacker, I don't think you say, oh, let's not sign either of our two linebackers and then just hope and pray that we get lucky with a linebacker in the draft or we get slim pickings in free agency afterwards.
Yeah.
So I would be shocked if they let both of them walk. I don't know. But then the question is, who do you want? Do you want TJ Edwards? Do you want Kizzy White? If you could only get one, do you have a preference? I don't know.
I would assume that you would want Dean as outside linebacker because of his cover skills and how fast he is. I know he played inside linebacker at Georgia, but I would assume you'd want Edwards to be your inside linebacker. They really play two linebackers, so like inside, right, left linebacker, whatever you want to call it, Sam Mike, or Sam and Will, whatever the word is. But my assumption would be you keep TJ Edwards, but maybe someone wants to pay TJ Edwards a lot of money, and then you go, well, see ya. Kevin Thomas says, you also do collaboration with Joe Castro, Philly, the podcast. I've done Joe's show before. Joe is great. He's quick. Joe gets shows out real quick. He was the first one on CJ Garner-Johnson this morning. That was really impressive.
He's actually at the Combine, too.
Oh, yeah. I saw that. Yeah, he's at the Combine right now. People are starting to go to these things. It's fun. Maybe one day we will get to go. It'd be really fun. Yeah, again, people that don't know our backstory, I don't want to talk too much about us, but we both worked for the Baylor Lariat when we were at Baylor. And so Baylor, very small broadcast program when we were there. Now it's like massive. And it's one of, in my opinion, the places to go that isn't Syracuse to get into broadcasting. I mean, they're starting to kind of build a little alumni resume here. But Josh and I were in all the Baylor football, meetings. We're in all the Baylor practices. And it's fun. It'd be fun to start going to Eagle stuff, but that's, future stuff.
Eventually.
I like Calcaterra. I do too. I think he wasn't ready, but when he filled in a couple of those games for Goddard, you can see, there's some Goddard-esque to him, right? It's 40% of Dallas Goddard, but it's like, maybe.
Yeah. Yep. He played in college pretty good. I mean, you look at his game film. I remember watching him in college. You never know. You give him a little bit more playing time. I know that, you talk about opportunity. Nick Sirianni in his press conference yesterday was talking about players taking advantage of the opportunity that they're given. I think someone asked the question about Quez, the rumors of trading Quez Watkins and what's that going to do. I'd be curious to see what you think may happen or what we should consider. But I mean, Nick kind of basically, it seemed to be that he, I don't know, kind of dismissed the rumors because he gave Quez a pass. It sounded like he was like, hey, he didn't really get a whole lot of opportunities. I don't just grade someone based on their stats. You got to look at the overall play. So I don't know if it was just he gave it's a good poker face and a good poker answer of not going to just come out. Obviously, you're not going to say, hey, yeah, we're going to trade him. But he seemed to be more supportive of Quez than not in the press conference. But curious what you think. I know that's a rumor that's been floating around. Hey, you get a draft pick or save a little money in the cap if you trade him away. I don't know what you do there.
Yeah. I mean, you only save $2 million, right? And so it's like in the NFL world, it's not a ton of money. And I think the Eagles' issue is if they had 10 draft picks, they'd go Quez, $2 million, see ya, we'll take someone in the fourth round and, hope he turns out to be good, but they have 5. And so they probably will keep him. And the hope is another year, anything can happen, but a lot of drops. Quez, he had too many drops, and that's the frustrating thing. And there were times where they would try to force the ball to him, and it's like, it's really crazy. Yes, Philly Talk just said here, Quez got in front of some of the drops. He's fast and he's cheap. I'm keeping him. Yeah. I mean, again, you're going to save $2 million. You cut Quez Watkins if you are desperate for money, and the Eagles aren't going to be once they restructure things. And speaking of restructuring, we haven't even talked about Jalen Hurts' contract. There were reports, I know I talked about it on my show, you talked about it on your show, it's coming before the Combine. Clearly it's not coming before the Combine unless they want to do it tomorrow morning. But the Hurts seems to me like the next deal that you get done, then you restructure guys, and then you start working towards free agency. And so I think we are, 16 days from the new league year, 17 days from the new league year. Hurts will be done before that. We're pretty much on Jalen Hurts contract watch from here on out, and we both think it's going to be a lot of money. Although you played on your show, I played on my show. Howie Roseman seemingly asked about that today. Really seemed to make the case that it's going to be a team-friendly deal. He said, we're not going to underpay. I'm paraphrasing. We're not going to underpay. People are going to get theirs. His agents are doing a really great job. But he understands that we need to keep good players around us, and that tells me it's going to be a fair deal. Anything under $48 million is a steal for Jalen Hurts, because he could easily go out there and demand 50 and you'd have to pay him 50 because that's what the market is right now. I mean, Deshaun Watson and Aaron Rodgers have ruined quarterbacks re-signing for everybody. Just ask Baltimore. They can't sign Lamar Jackson for anything less than 250, which is nuts for Lamar Jackson.
He's determined. Lamar Jackson is determined to make it even worse. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But
if you told me right now $46 million a year for Jalen Hurts, I'd be like, oh my gosh, what is this, 7-Eleven? We're getting an absolute steal for him. That'd be insane for $46 million a year.
It's like a 20% discount or something like that. Yeah. I know. I'm curious to see what it ends up turning into. I know most of the reports are saying close-ish to 50. So I think, anything less than 50, I'm going to be pretty happy about that. I'm just curious, what do? Do you sign him for really long-term? Because I know the longer the deal is, you could spread it out and then you free up a lot more cap room. And if you're saying to yourself, hey, this is the team, let's free up a little more cap room. Let's do something this season. We obviously just made it to Super Bowl. How do we get back? Do you sign him to a similar Patrick Mahomes deal? You'd go 10 years. That's always scary, especially a guy like Jalen putting his body on the line. I know he's not very easily breakable, but he did get injured this last season. So I don't know, that's the fear too of like, okay, how long do we commit? What's the guaranteed money and how long are we committing for?
Didn't Patrick Mahomes get like some things in his contract where he's not allowed to go skiing or he's not allowed to jet ski? I think that's in his contract that he can't jet ski.
I believe so. I think I recall that. Yeah.
Whatever it is, you can't go jet skiing.
If I paid you $50 million to not do something,
I would never. I wouldn't swim for the rest of my life. You say no more swimming. Be like, okay, that's fine. No more driving in a car. All right, that's fine. Philly Mike, what's up? Yeah, Philly Mike's hanging out in the chat. Everyone can say hi to Philly Mike. Philly Talk Podcast. Philly Mike's channel. Just quick shout out to Philly Mike because I know like there are a lot of Eagle content creators. There are a lot of NFL and Eagle content creators. Philly Mike's channel has blown up, man. He's done some really good stuff. He's like 30-something thousand subs. It's insane. It's hats off to Mike because he's got some good stuff going. He's got a lot of subscribers and a lot of reoccurring watchers, I guess. He's had some good guests too as well. So shout out to him for watching the show. Hurts is better than Lamar. I agree. Lamar's tough. Everyone defends Lamar like crazy, but I like Lamar, but Jalen has a better resume already. I mean, literally already. Lamar can't get, past the first round of the playoffs, it seems. Who do you guys like as backup for Jalen? You know what? Let's see. Everyone that keeps asking this, it's not a big deal. And they don't have draft picks to spend on a quarterback, in my opinion. Let's find us a cheap backup. How about Carson Wentz? I'm just kidding. There's not a chance. Can you imagine?
Oh my gosh, I was going to say.
Let's find a cheap backup.
You're going to stir up people in the chat with that.
Can you imagine? Teddy Bridgewater. Okay. Let's see here. Bridgewater, sure. I like that.
I saw a lot of people saying Mariota, but like, I don't know. What are you going to get him for? Right? How much are you going to be able to sign him for if you bring him on?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. Philly Talk, shout out to you two all driving. That's why I'm not saying so much. What's up? Yeah, don't text and drive. We appreciate you. Don't text and drive. Let's see. Backup. Let's find a backup. Jacoby Brissett. That's a possibility, I guess. I mean, this whole idea,
like that. Yeah. Again, it's all depending on the price, right? Because you're not signing a backup quarterback to say, hey, yes, we're going to have you play. That's the hope and goal. But Brissett did. I mean, what I would say is he did a fantastic job with Cleveland. Before Deshaun took over, I think he did all and more than what you could ask for. So depending on the price, sure. But I don't know. He also probably inflated his market for his production.
Huntley's a free agent. I would love Tyler Huntley because I think he does a good job when Lamar's out. Jarrett Stidham's a free agent, our old Baylor friend. Did you ever meet Jarrett Stidham?
Yeah, I did actually. Yep, one time. And it was really good guy. He played basketball against my brother.
Okay, I was in his first press conference when he was the Baylor starter against. It was the K-State game that you and I were both at. That was
road trip into K-State.
That one. Yeah, that's a whole different story. I almost killed us driving home. Juan says Thomas going to get someone killed. Trust me, when I drive long distances, it's possible. I fall asleep too easily. Eagles aren't going to stay with 6 picks. No, they probably won't. Heineke would be a bad backup. Okay, that's fine. Although this Heineke pushes a little too much for the starting job. You need someone quiet. Pro Bowler Tyler Huntley. That's right. He was a Pro Bowler this year, technically.
That was the biggest farce.
That was funny.
It was very,
funny.
very funny. It was funny. It's just proven even more of a joke.
We got 3 minutes until I have to make the phone call with Asia, so we have to go ahead and wrap this up. Unfortunately, see, on a normal night we would go longer, but I got to pay the bills somehow, so I got to do a little late night phone call for the other job. So 3 minutes, questions, rapid fire here every Wednesday night. Call it the Wednesday Linc. Subscribe to Josh. Subscribe to myself. We got to get Josh over 300 by the end of the night. I think he's I think a lot of people watch this show already subscribe to Josh, but if you're not subscribed to Josh, you need to be subscribed to Josh ASAP because he's got a great channel. You're over 300 now. You're at 304. There you go.
I appreciate you guys.
We got to get him over 400 now. Come on. Goodness gracious. As long as it ain't Baker Mayfield. Okay. Huntley was second in the passing competition, 2 behind D-Car. LOL. Where do you think Derek Carr is going to go? What does your heart say?
Gosh, that's a good question. I really don't know. I've started trying to think of what teams are going to be interested. I know that to me, I keep thinking the Jets are going to get Rodgers, but I don't even know if Rodgers wants to come back now. He's back from the darkness, I think, apparently. But I don't know. I could see Washington possibly trying to make a play for Carr. That would be interesting.
That would stink. I would not want that because he could be pretty good.
Yeah, I know. But I with the way that this is all kind of going about, obviously they freed up cap space by letting go of Wentz. It seems to suggest. I know Ron Rivera said no to. They're not going to go get a quarterback, but I kind of think that's to throw off the scent. They're going to go get a quarterback. They're going to find somebody.
The craziest thing to me, and we talked about it a little bit last week, this entire offseason from a quarterback perspective, Anthony Richardson. The report I read today, don't know who it was, whatever, said that the the Panthers are all in for Anthony Richardson, which Frank Reich, no idea if that report's true. Obviously, smoke screens. Anthony Richardson is so weird. I wish we need another 20 minutes to talk about Anthony Richardson, but there's a scenario where all these quarterbacks you see, obviously CJ Stroud, you see Bryce Young, you see Will Levis, you see Anthony Richardson, 1, 2, 3, 4 go inside the top 5 or inside the top 10. That's 4 non-skill players, 4 non-defensive linemen, and that means people are getting pushed back. That means Will Anderson would go, a little bit further back. Jalen Carter, depending on, getting arrested, could, also fall back as well. Philadelphia, they want as many quarterbacks to come, and I'm all for someone taking, a swing on Anthony Richardson. I am fine on that. I think that Anthony Richardson has a better chance of being good than Will Levis. I was talking to somebody who I trust from a quarterback perspective. He thinks Will Levis is everything they were worried that Josh Allen was not going to be. He looks like Josh Allen, but he's not Josh Allen. And that's the problem with Will Levis, is that people are going to be like, he's Josh Allen, but he's not. So it's good news if these quarterbacks go, because then you have a better chance of getting a good player.
Well, and I'll take it the other route too. I agree with you. It's good news if they go early, but I think it's good news if they don't, because you always have teams reaching for quarterbacks. I would love it if one of those is available at 10. You know how we could trade out of that and get multiple draft picks? So I think you're kind of in a win-win situation there. Either they go early, you get someone to fall to you, or they don't, and you have a team that's like, hey, we need to trade up and take them. All right, sure. Let's get a haul of draft picks. Let's get more than what we got now.
Will Levis is Paxton Lynch. Let's hope not, because that means he's really bad. Jeez, goodness gracious. I don't trust Will Levis. Carter falls to 10, steal for the birds, right? Yes, as long as the legal issues and character issues aren't a problem. Yeah, for sure, 100%. Tampa Bay. Yeah, is Tampa Bay going to roll with Kyle Trask? Because they said that they were, and I don't believe them, but you never know.
They got a lot of dead cap money with the retirement, so
a lot of them.
You're kind of in a sticky situation there. You might have to.
Scary. All right, guys, I got to wrap it up. I got to go do another work call. Again, if you missed the show, it's going to be basically reposted, so you can just watch it from the start. This is going to be a Wednesday night, 7 p.m. thing. We normally will go longer than an hour. I have work tonight, so what are you going to do? It happens, or I have a phone call tonight, whatever you want to call it. But subscribe to Josh's show. He does really great stuff at the Philly Special Show. We're going to do this, again, every single week. Call it the Wednesday Linc, L-I-N-C. Josh's name, not mine. I think it's great, and we're going to have a bunch of fun. So follow Josh on Twitter. That's all on his channel in his description box. Follow me. Both got shows coming out tomorrow. Stay tuned for that. See you guys.
Awesome. We'll see you.